Morning, everybody. Sorry I'm not in school today. I've set you this tutorial to watch, which goes with lesson 11A. And hopefully you've opened up 11A and you can see the Google Doc in front of you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through the key things that you need to think about, and then I would suggest you stop it at the correct places to answer the different questions that I'm going to deal with, and then come back to the video at various points during the lesson. So we have actually skipped lesson 10. The reason for that is that really requires me to be there in the classroom, and I've got some video materials that I want to show you for lesson 10 for this topic. So we'll come back to that next lesson. So I've just moved us on one little step forward. Don't worry, it's not that I've forgotten about lesson 10. Okay, so the key idea that we're thinking about is that we know about birth and death rates, and that they vary around the world. That's quite a familiar idea in our minds. What we're now thinking about is what causes them to vary, and obviously that's also something that you'll be fairly familiar with. So if we have a look at this particular set of factors here, we can see that we've got a range of factors that are causing birth rates to be very high in developing countries. So let's just have a little look at this one. So this idea is that they don't have pensions in developing countries. And because of that, there's nobody to look after your children when you are at an old age. And especially there's no kind of government support for that. So because that lack of security when you're old, in comparison to the UK, we obviously have a lot of security. We have a pension system and care homes, and the government will protect our elderly. In poor countries, they don't have that. So people, when they're younger, will have a number of children to guarantee that some will be around for when they get to their old age to help care for them. Let's just look at the other side of the table. So what's one of some of the reasons that death rates are very high? Well, access to clean water in somewhere like the UK is just walking over to a tap and filling up your cup and drinking it, and you never think twice about it. And you know that the water's come to you through a secure pipe, which is connected to a water treatment facility where they've chlorinated it and done various things to ensure that it's completely clean and safe to drink, and therefore you never worry about dying from drinking a glass of water or getting sick at least. Well, in the developing world, obviously water sources may not be coming from clean water sanitation places where they've been treated. Water sources might actually just be the local river or a pond in the area that people are drawing water from. And because that they can get contaminated, especially if there's waste in the area or toilet facilities in the area that are also not connected to a kind of a sewage system, then often disease can lurk in these water sources. People can drink that water and get ill. Okay, so I'd like you to read down all of these factors that are to do with why are birth and death rates high, and I'd like you to highlight maybe one or two words in each of these boxes using your highlight pen up here. And I have pointed out here, just before you go ahead and do that, that many of the points above can actually be reversed to give you kind of the opposite of the negative. So why are birth rates low in developed countries and why are death rates low? But what I've also tried to do when you read this is try to introduce new ideas that aren't just reversals, but are actually completely unique to richer countries like our own. Okay, so go ahead and do that task first, and then come back to this video in a second. Okay, so what you've done is you've familiarized yourself with the text. I would now like you to answer these two questions. So type your answer here. So why are death rates low in developed countries? So what you want to do is try to avoid looking back at what you just read, and don't just describe, try to explain why death rates are low in a country like Scotland. So you could say in Scotland, death rates are low because when you think about death rates, by the way, before you go ahead and answer this question, what we're also talking about is why do we live a long time? So another way that this could be worded is explain why life expectancies are high in developed countries. It would be the same thing that you'd be writing about. And can I encourage you to give or try to give me 5 good explanations? At the same time, I'd also like you to try to give me 5 good explanations for this second question, which is why are birth rates high in developing countries? Okay. Right, go ahead and write your answer for both those questions. You're going to try to give me 5 points. I'm just going to write 5 right here just to guide you as kind of how long should my answers be. Okay. Right, now pause the video. Now that you've completed that, you probably we're 30 minutes into the lesson or so. So what I'd now like you to do is have a look at this question, and you've got 2 parts to it. And the aim is to get this all completed by the end of the lesson. So what we can see here is in Scotland, the fertility rate, which you will remember is the number of babies an average woman has in her life, in 1951 was just under 2.5. We can then see it rose into the 1960s to just over 3. They call this the baby boom. This might be the kind of time around maybe where your parent was born or just a little bit before. So this was, for whatever reason, there was an explosion in number of children being born in Scotland. It then fell away into the 1970s, down to 1.5, where it has remained largely the same until recently. There's been a small rise. Actually, if we went beyond 2008, it's actually started to come back down again. Okay, so that's the fertility rate. It then says, question says, describe the changes in the birth rate over time. Right, now this would always be a 4-mark question. So what you've got to do when you describe a graph is tell me what it started at, give me the date, give me the value, tell me about the period of time which it rose, which would be dealing with this point here, the round about the 1963, 1964, and it's that level. It then declined, and you'd probably want to say how much it declined. Well, that's quite a steep decline or a sharp decline into about 1976 or 1977, where it got to just over 1.5. It then stabilized, declining slowly. That's a very slow decline down to under 1.5 by about the year 2000. And then from around about just after 2000, it started rising again back up to this level here. Now, a good answer would give me the dates, would include the amounts, and it would also say whether the changes were rapid or slow or steady. Okay, so that's your answer you're going to want to type there. And finally, your explain why are birth rates in Scotland changing over time. So this really is about why are birth rates declining. So your answer here has got to be telling me about why do you think over the last, since the 1950s, have people in Scotland had fewer and fewer children. So go back up and look up your factors for why birth rates are low in developed countries. So birth rates are low in developed countries, and use those reasons to help us understand why Scotland has falling birth rates. So you'd want to start this answer with in Scotland. Okay, now that I've finished this will be set as homework to be completed for your next lesson. Well, not for the next lesson, which will be on Wednesday, but for the end of the week, for Friday. So if you get it done in class, great. If not, make sure it is done by Friday.